Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Thoughts Behind the Wheel for Friday, August 20th. What is today? It's August something. I am so horrible at this. Hang on. No, I will figure this out. 28th, August 28th. Hi, how's it going? So my last Thoughts Behind the Wheel, I said, give me questions, and oh dear Lord, did you guys give me questions. I will try to run through them all. However, I can't get them all done in one episode. So what I'm probably going to do is I'll use this as, because I was asked so many questions, I'll use this as like a pool of, hey, if I don't have anything specific to talk about, I'll reference the comments in this video and answer some of the questions I didn't get to. Because there's no way I'm going to get them all done in one or maybe even two Thoughts Behind the Wheel. And of course, every Thoughts Behind the Wheel I put up, I assume there's going to be more questions, so etc., etc. I will try and do the ones I remember and all that. But first and foremost, I wanted to address something which was talked about heavily in my last Thoughts Behind the Wheel, which was that a lot of people were saying that they disagreed that World War I started solely because of, did not start because of political means. Now, I must have miscommunicated my viewpoint, because a lot of people said this, and this was not my intent. Now, if it's one person that misunderstood, I would say maybe it's me, maybe it's you, but since it's a lot of people, I think I just did a poor job of expressing myself. So let me try and make myself more clear. I never meant to suggest that World War I didn't start because of political means. I think that pride was a huge factor in it, and I'd said as much, but that doesn't mean I don't think that World War I didn't start by for political gains or for political reasons. Pride in and of itself can be a political reason as long as the people who are going to war feel that such pride will better their nation in some way, i.e., if we win this war and get pride, it'll motivate our people to do great things. It will make the world treat us better. I mean, this is all pride. I mean, think of Germany, for example. A lot of you even said, Germany went to war because they wanted to make a name for themselves. They wanted the other countries to take them seriously. They were a new country. They were the new kid on the block. And they wanted to show all the other countries that they're just as powerful as they are, even more so. That's pride, pure and simple. That is 100% absolute pride. But that's also technically still political because they feel that pursuing this policy of earning this pride, if you want to say it that way, would help their country. So I think that, and of course, England and France saw colonial opportunities, and someone pointed out that France wanted to regain lost territory and recover their pride, and all of this stuff can be seen as political, especially, like I said, if we go by the definition or the idea that politics is something that is practiced to better your country. Even bad politics, even something that we call bad politics because it didn't better the country, the person who initiated the act, who did the act, thought that it would help the country in some way. So even bad politics still comes from a place where they thought this would help the country and just turned out not to. My contention was not that World War I had nothing to do with politics when it started, but that it had nothing to do with politics when it continued, after everyone realized what this war was going to be. After, say, 6 months or a year, when they realized this was not going to be quickly won, and in order to win this war, the cost is going to be exponential, and all the countries knew this at some point. Here's why I think the war became something in and of itself. It became war for war's sake. It became non-political. Because at a certain point in World War I, let's say a year, I'm not sure if it's exactly a year, I'd have to study it more, but there is a point where every single country realized what was going on. That this war was not going to end quickly, It had already devolved into trench warfare, war of attrition. It was not going to be resolved quickly, and it was certainly not going to be resolved without massive casualties. Every single country knew this. Every single country involved, Germany, France, Russia, and England, all knew that to win this war, they were going to have to spend exponential resources and people. And if you think about that, and they must have thought about that, that means that even by winning this war, they are going to risk bankrupting their country, and that's what many of them did. No country walked away from this war better off than it was when it started. Every single country was devastated by this war. The second the countries realized this, the second they realized that to win this war, it was going to hurt them far more than any gains they could receive through victory, i.e., maybe we'll get some colonies by winning, but these colonies are not going to make up for the amount of lives and resources we are going to have to expend. Maybe we'll get the world to recognize how powerful we are, but we're going to have to expend all our power to do so. Once they realized this, if they were interested in politics, if they were interested in what was best for the country, they should have sought resolution. And Germany even did. Someone pointed this out to me. Germany even did offer a peace accord and it wasn't accepted. And here's why it wasn't accepted, at least in my humble opinion. How many of you have played a video game and come up against a boss or an enemy or some kind who you could kill them or you could stop them or whatever, but they got you? They killed you like 6 times. They did something sneaky on their head and you're like, oh, F you. Oh, no. I'm not just going to kill you. I'm going to use my ultra fatality on you. And I'm going to keep playing this game until I pull off that ultra fatality because you deserve it. That's the same basic concept. By the time Germany offered a peace accord, they were trying to find a resolution to World War I where they could still save face. And at that point in time, France, England, and Russia were not concerned, had no interest in Germany saving face at all. They had already suffered too much, lost too much. They were not looking for a win by points. They were looking for a KO. They didn't want a victory where Germany got to walk away with its pride intact. They would not accept it. That is not political. That is purely emotional and has nothing to do with the benefit or welfare of your country. When this took place, when the country saw that continuing this war and winning this war was going to hurt them far more than stopping it, than finding a resolution, and they chose to continue, it was no longer political. It had run away from them. It had become war for war's sake. It had become war simply because we've lost so much we can't stop now because it has to be worth something. And that is not political. Now, excuse me, did they think it was political? I'm sure they did. I mean, I'm sure they probably thought it was political. Remember, this is us looking back at history. And we have a very, very different viewpoint than those people in that time looking forward, looking ahead. Dragonster pointed this out to me. We had a nice long chat on Twitter. And he pointed out that I took the wrong exit. Again, I seem to do this a lot. Have you guys noticed that? I take wrong exits all the time. You'd be surprised. It drives my girl nuts. My one saving grace is that even though I take the wrong exit all the time, I know all the roads because I'm one of those people that I don't like driving home the same way. I like driving home new ways and finding new paths. So even when I take the wrong exit, I always like, oh, I know exactly how to get around this. It's fine. Don't worry about it. We're good. He said that, you know, he was looking at it from their point of view, looking forward, and from that point of view, it still kind of looks political. And yes, that's true. But as historians, our job is twofold. One, it is to empathize and understand what they saw and how they felt. True. But it is also to look at it as a third party. Pull yourself away from the picture and look at the results and the overall effects, not the close-in picture. And if you look back, I think that most of you would agree that maybe it started for political reasons. And I did a disservice by making it sound like I didn't think World War I started for political reasons. But after it continued, after the countries realized that this war was going to devastate them, they should have stopped, and they didn't. And that's when it ran away from them, and that's when it became unpolitical. So yeah, I wanted to address that and get your thoughts on that. I could still be wrong. You guys might say, no, there's still this. So, and I read all of your opinions. I want you to know that. So, moving on to other things. Let me try and run down some of the quick ones I remember. Oh boy. What were some of the quick ones I remember? Someone asked if I could talk about the First and Second Punic War. I would love to, but they're one of my favorite topics to talk about. And before I do so, I'd want to brush up on my details a bit. I don't mind going into details about most history, thoughts behind the wheel. You all know this is kind of off the cuff. It's not really something you prepare for. I just kind of do it. But the Punic Wars deserves more than that. It deserves better justice, I guess you could say. Because holy cow, is that a tale. So maybe later. Someone asked if I could get amnesia and forget everything I knew about Mass Effect and play the whole series again, would I? My God, if ever there was a reason to get amnesia, that would be one of them. No, the answer is no. I probably would not choose to forget everything I know about everything. Now, if I could forget everything I know just about Mass Effect, oh, you better believe it. There's nothing like playing a series like that for the first time. There's nothing quite like doing the suicide mission for the first time. That's why I watch so many blind Let's Plays, because I live vicariously through other people and their first experiences. So yeah, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I'd leave a note to myself saying, you forgot everything you know about these games, you should fix that, signed, you. So yeah. Oh, crud. Now I'm already forgetting all the questions that were asked, because there were a lot. Someone asked what it was I found so distasteful or disliked so much about Mass Effect 3's ending. I can discuss that in a future Thoughts Behind the Wheel if people want, but I would have to make it kind of a special one where because it's very spoiler heavy. There's people out there who have not beaten Mass Effect 3, and I don't know how far the spoilers statute of limitations extends, but it certainly hasn't hit that point yet. There's still enough people out there that haven't experienced the ending that if I did a Thoughts Behind the Wheel on that, on why I dislike the ending so much, I would have to say this is very spoiler heavy. If you haven't played it, don't listen to it. But I can say that I feel that it betrayed many of the themes that the entire series was based around. And that's why it wasn't, okay, nope, I gotta stop. Anyway, maybe if enough people want me to talk about it, I'll talk about it, and I'll just make it a spoiler edition or something, but not now. Someone asked, what's my favorite story in a game? Mass Effect. What's my favorite story in a game series? Still Mass Effect. I'm sorry, I think that's one of the best stories in a game that I've ever played, and because, not that, and I should explain why, I guess. It's not that the plot itself was phenomenal. The plot itself was good, but it had its mistakes. It certainly had its mistakes. The plot wasn't without holes. I think it was a very doable plot. It made sense. There were very few times where I was like, well, that doesn't really fit, does it? But it wasn't the plot, it was the world, and it was the characters. They made the plot great. And I'll explain. Here's why I think. So Mass Effect 1 introduces you to the world. And by the way, I'm going to keep this spoiler free. Don't worry. I won't. Well, at least I'll keep it mostly spoiler free. Mass Effect 1 introduced you to the world and some of the characters, and you had a nice adventure and a romp, and you got introduced to what Mass Effect was. The whole concept of Mass Effect fields and how it's used, and the politics and the viewpoints and where everyone stands in the status quo. Which is great. It's a great introduction. Then Mass Effect 2 pulled what I thought was a genius move. It didn't advance the main story hardly at all. I mean, your enemy was the Collectors. It really had nothing to do with the Reapers. I mean, it did, but it didn't. And anyone who's played it, you know what I mean. It did have something to do with the Reapers, but it didn't. It had to do with the Collectors. And it didn't advance the main plot much at all. They took a whole game, they slowed down, and they said, we're going to spend an entire game. We've introduced you to the world. You're familiar. You know your way around. Now, we're going to get you to love the world. We're going to get you to love the characters and crew and people that are in this world. We're going to take an entire game and focus on characters, character development. Your team, your friends, everyone. We want to make an entire game where we get you hooked into not just the world, but the people in the world. And that way, when Mass Effect 3 happens, and the proverbial poop hits the proverbial fan, and everything starts going to hell, you care so much because you're so attached to these people, and you know, okay, I know Dragonstar, I'm quoting him a lot, but because I'm watching his Let's Play, so it's fresh on my mind. There's a point in Mass Effect 3 at near the very beginning where he's looking at this memorial wall on the Normandy, and he says, this game is gonna suck, because I know by the end of this game, some names of people I know and care about are gonna be on this wall, and that sucks. And he's absolutely right, and that's absolutely why I love Mass Effect, and that sounds really morbid, but because it invested me so much, I stopped treating it like it was a game. Here's an interesting example. At the beginning of Mass Effect 3, very small spoiler I guess, there's a child, and this child is killed in front of Shepard's eyes by Reapers, and it's tearing Shepard up throughout the whole game that this child died. A lot of people hated this. This was something that a lot of people disliked. They thought that it was a cheap shot by BioWare. Oh, let's throw a child in there because it's horrible when children die. Cheap shot BioWare. Here's the thing. They're not wrong. It was kind of a cheap shot. They threw the kid in there and the kids pulling heartstrings on. But I bought it hook, line, and sinker. Absolutely bought it hook, line, and sinker. Why? Because by the time Mass Effect 3 came around, yes, it was a game. Yes, I knew it was a game, but I treated it as more than a game. I empathized too much. I empathized with Shepard too much, and the characters too much. They were more than just video game characters to me. They were, don't get me wrong, it's not creepy. It's not like I thought they were living in my room. But we've all been there. We've all had a story, a book, a movie, a series, whatever, where the characters were so endeared to us that they meant more to us than just words on a page or pixels on a screen or characters in a story. They were more than that. And I was 100% there. So when that child died and Shepard saw it and it tore Shepard up, I bought it hook, line, and sinker because I could see that. When I was in the military, one of the biggest things that you would see people getting treated for post-traumatic stress disorder was children and innocents dying. Innocent civilians and especially children. Now, for a lot of soldiers, this would bother them more than losing friends that were soldiers. And that sounds weird at first. They're strangers. Sure, maybe they're kids, but they're strangers. You'd be more eaten up about your friends. Yes and no. Your friends, in this case, and the same thing applies for Shepard, Caden or Ashley or Rex or whoever, you know, that you've lost along the way, they're soldiers or mercenaries. But whatever the case may be, they chose this line of work. They know the risks. They understand the risks, and they accept them. They chose this. So when you lose them, it's horrible. Yes, it's horrible. But you dishonor them if you let it tear you up too much, because it kind of takes away their choice. If you need to honor them, you need to you understand and respect that they made this choice and they paid the ultimate price for it, but they were willing to, and that helps a lot. An innocent child, the child in Mass Effect 3, he was a pure 100% innocent boy who had nothing to do with this war, and he had his entire future and all his hopes and all his dreams ripped away from him by a threat that you've been trying to stop for 2 years, and it happened right in front of your eyes. Yeah, I really do think that could tear Shepard up inside. I mean, if you add on to the fact that everyone's dying and that everyone's having trouble and Shepard's dealing with all this stress, I could see him attaching everything to that one image. But my whole point was, it's kind of a cheap shot because this is a video game, and if I was less attached to this video game, it wouldn't have worked for me. But because I treated Shepard as much more than just a video game character, I empathized with him, and I thought to myself immediately, even subconsciously, I didn't even think consciously about it, but if Shepard was a real person, if I was there in his place and I saw this happen, how badly would it hurt me? And the answer is, well, yeah, that badly. So Mass Effect can do that to me, which is why I love it. Now, don't get me started. I know that there's problems. I know that there's, different ways they could have handled different things. And yes. I know there's some plot hole issues, etc. I get it. I'm willing to forgive it because overall it was fantastic. It doesn't mean that it was perfect. So that's that question answered. They asked me what my favorite PC was. You might be surprised to say it's not Shepard, because Shepard's not much of a PC. I mean, if you think about it, Shepard doesn't have much of his own personality. He's an avatar for you, and you implant your personality in him. This is a big debate I had with one of the big issues I took with Smudge Boys videos, where they talked about how Shepard's just a brick, and Shepard doesn't display any emotions, and Shepard's too bland, and like an automaton. And that was to miss the whole point of what Shepard was. Shepard was not Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed. He or she was not designed to be a fully fleshed out character. They were designed to be a shell that you could implant yourself into and use them as your avatar. You were responsible for giving them their personality. You were responsible for giving them their set of morals. If something bad happens, Shepard has 3 different responses. I abhor this. This is terrible. It's necessary, or whatever. And I would have done it too, kind of thing. That's you. You're supposed to develop that and put that in there. It wasn't until the 3rd game that they even started giving you glimpses into Shepard's psyche. In Mass Effect 3, the dreams and the moments where you could say, this war is really eating me up and this is bugging me. You never got that in 1 and 2, and that was because they were, in my opinion, because I don't know this for a fact, BioWare hasn't come out and said this, but I think that they were tiptoeing around such things, because once you start doing that, it's harder for some people to identify with Shepard. What if their Shepard didn't have dreams and didn't feel this way? Well, now you have trouble relating to them. In Mass Effect 3, it was safer to do because, come on, folks, let's be realistic here. Who is going to literally have the fate of everyone thrust upon their shoulders and not get a few bad dreams from it? It's unrealistic unless they are literally mentally damaged. I think anyone would feel the pressure from that. So, but yeah. So my favorite PC, not Shepard, because Shepard's not really that much of a PC in their own right. And I assume we're not counting PCs I've made, like Squeeper, because Squeeper might be my favorite. Oh boy, favorite PC, and can I also assume that we're not including role-playing characters that I'm part of, like Rifts or Thrilling Intent or anything, because I love those characters too. Let's take them out of the equation. That's a tough question for me. PC in a video game that I really, really love. Give me a sec. You know, off the top of my head, and I might change this when I have more time to think about it, but Ezio Auditore would probably be one of my favorite. Now, the Assassin's Creed games hold a near and dear spot in my heart, and they are, you know, in my top 10 games, absolutely. But Ezio Auditore is one of my favorite PCs because you get to see his entire life, and you get to see how he develops through his entire life, and I love how he developed. I love, my favorite part of Assassin's Creed is Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations. Bar none. Those 3 games right there are hands down the best part of that series. Don't get me wrong, Assassin's Creed 4 with the pirates is really, really fun, but it's fun because it's pirates and I love pirates. But watching Ezio go from a young snot-nosed brat of a teenager to an adult to an elderly man, and watching his character progression. Whoever wrote that story, whoever wrote the character, treated him with such care, and it was so well done that it was a joy to experience. If you've ever played Assassin's Creed 2, but you haven't played Brotherhood, you haven't played Revelations, I suggest you play them. Now, Revelations gets a lot of rap because it's not one of the best Assassin's Creed games. I think that if you like Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, you'll like Revelations. They don't change much. There's not a lot changed to it. And that was one of the big complaints. But it's worth it just for Ezio's arc. Just to see what he becomes and how he deals with it and how it all ends. You know, that to me is definitely worth doing. Brotherhood's probably actually my favorite of the series, even though it was kind of like an offshoot title. It was still my favorite of the series. But so that's my favorite PC. My favorite in PC, as in a character that you didn't play. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's a toughie, isn't it? I don't think I'm ever going to be able to answer that. Can I give you like a top 10 maybe? You know, like I love Minsk. I love Chihira. Yeah, I do. I love Chihira, I have to say. I love a lot of the Mass Effect characters so much. I love Joker. Oh God, Joker. He might actually be one of my favorites. If I had to say a favorite NPC, the Joker NPC, the Joker from Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight. And I'm sorry, not Arkham. I haven't played that one. Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and Arkham Origins. I might say Joker because he's just so magnificent play. Even Troy Baker did an excellent job with that Joker. So yeah, we'll go with Joker for now. But this is a tough choice. What else is there? Someone asked how me and my girl met. Hey Yoon, as I just call her HK. We met in college, a community college. We were in Irving at the time, going to a community college, and we both had a sociology class together. Oh gosh. 10 years ago now? 10? Almost 10 years ago? Yeesh. Time flies. We had a sociology class together. Apparently, I kind of creeped her out. Not really, but she caught me glancing at her, which she was gorgeous. So, yeah. guilty as charged, I suppose. And back then I was much more socially awkward than I am now. So the way we actually met was this. We shared a sociology class. We'd been in the class a few months, and we were standing in line to get our test results for like a midterm or something like that. And basically, a lot of colleges do this. They have all the students line up outside their office and talk to them individually about their test scores so that they don't pass out scores in the front of the class and the whole class knows what you did or didn't do, which is a very nice way of doing it. And we were standing in line. And I wasn't in a rush, I thought. No, I wasn't in a rush. And there was a girl behind me, and I don't remember why I thought she should go ahead of me, but I do remember being nice and polite and saying, oh, you can go first, you can go first. And I swear to you, it had nothing to do with HK. Because I didn't even notice HK was there until I had already offered for her to go ahead of me. So I offered for her to go ahead of me, and then I realized I was standing right next to Higyu. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm standing right next to her. I should say something. And then I went through that instance that everyone in their life has gone through at some point. I should say something. Oh, but I can't say something. Oh, but I should. I really need to. Oh, but what if I say something that makes me look really stupid? I'm going to screw it up forever. And I should just not say anything. No, I need to. And the thing that did it for me. And there's very few times in people's lives where they have like a moment of revelation or whatever you want to call it. But I do remember thinking this. If you say something, there's a chance, no matter how small, that she could be important to you. She could be everything. She could be your girlfriend. She could be the one you're with forever. There's that chance. It's not high, but it could happen. But if you say nothing, there's no chance. And I thought that. I literally thought that in my mind. And so I turned around, and keep in mind that Higyoon is Korean. She's from Korea. She's from South Korea, from Seoul. Came here to go to college and ended up staying a lot longer than she planned. And I turned to her and I said, excuse me, do you mind if I ask you a question? And she was very polite. She said, no, I don't mind at all. I said, are you Filipino? And I don't know how much that may or may not mean to Americans. I know I couldn't tell the difference back then. But thinking back on it now, knowing now what I didn't know then, you could not be further from the mark if you tried. The differences in how they appear are so great. I could never mistake the two now. Not never. Let's not say never. Let's not stereotype that much. But let's just say it was a really dumb thing to ask. But she, bless her soul, was very kind and polite about it. And she said no, she was Korean, and she explained that you know, you can tell because a lot of Koreans will have a fold in their upper eyelid. I don't really know how to describe it without showing you a picture, but she explained that, and she showed hers, and we started talking. And I don't know why she kept talking to me. She really shouldn't have, especially with that brilliant of a start. But she kept talking, and she told me later, after we'd been dating for a while, that the girl that I had let go in front of me looked pissed because, you know, because HK was watching the whole thing, wondering what I was doing. And she said that when I let the girl go in front of me, the girl had smiled, and she looked at me and kind of smiled, and then saw that I was just talking to HK and looked upset. And I can understand that, but I swear to you, that was not in my mind. I was actually trying to be polite. I didn't realize HK was there when I did it. But, so we talked for a while, and then we went to the computer lab and we talked for a while, and then we just started talking. She worked there at the community college, and And we just talked and talked, and eventually I asked her on a date, and it all went from there. She said that the moment she decided to date me, because there was moments where, it was still up in the air. She is Korean, I am American. That's two very, very different cultures. And trust me, I can tell you after years and years of experience, it is not the easiest relationships to make work. It has nothing to do with her or me in particular. It has to do with how we grow up, how we view things, how we look at things. And it's hard to reconcile those. It's hard to join two cultures together. When you first start dating, it's not as big a problem because you're in that lovey-dovey mode. But she said that the moment she decided that she was going to date me was we were having lunch at the college, because up until that point, we hadn't gone on a date. We just were spending some time at college, and we both were eating lunch at the college. So I'm not sure if you would call that having lunch or not. But my grandfather called me, and we were going to go bowling. I was going to go take my grandpa bowling. And she said that the fact that I was going to go spend time with my grandpa and take care of my grandpa endeared me to her. And she was like, that is really, really, really sweet. And that's when she decided that if I asked her out, she would say yes. So that's cool. That happened. You guys don't see or hear much from her because she has no real interest in video games. She does like a few video games. Once in a while, she'll play like Bejeweled type video games. She played games as a kid, Nintendo games, so she has a few that she remembers, like Circus, Garbage Pail Kids, a couple of old games like that she remembers, but she doesn't really enjoy games too much, and she's very shy. Not around me. She's a firecracker. She's as passionate and funny as I am, but around people she doesn't know, she gets incredibly shy. So she doesn't like being in front of the camera too much, but you have seen her before. If you watch a lot of my live streams, you'll see her hand come in and start messing with me or steal my drink, because she swears that my drink tastes better than her drink. And it doesn't matter what I'm drinking, it's the fact that it's my drink makes it taste better. Kind of like conquest makes things sweeter, I guess. But yeah, I know a lot of people have asked for us to do a Let's Play together. I don't think that'll ever happen. It's just not something she's into. So, yeah, there's that. I know there are a lot of other questions that I am forgetting. But, yeah, I think I'll go ahead and stop there for today. And I will see you guys next time. Ta-ta.